A live thing coming up. Yes, and we are now. Very good. So here we are all together. What is the webinar name? I don't know. Let's call it Destination New Zealand. We can have a vote on that if you like. My name is Tate Ulsaker. I'm happy to be here. I have left the microphones all on right now while I introduce myself. That's okay. Yeah. The children talking in the background. Let me try to again. So what are we here for? We're here to give you something of value. So I and all of the co-hosts here, we have a passion, and that is here what we're doing to help South Africans find work in New Zealand, find a residency, find immigration, adjust to the process, and anything that you need along the way that requires, understanding and other people's stories and anything that can help you along the way. So if you want to start a new life in New Zealand, you've come to the right place because we'll have experts on. We've got a lot of great experts even today, right now, in this show. So there are sort of, I guess, 4 segments you can say today. Right now, I'll introduce something on the job sector. After that, we'll have something from Cliff, who's Mr. Encyclopedia. He's got something about his post that got a lot of hits. It's Saffas not leaving South Africa if South Africa already left Saffas. It was a very popular post that struck a nerve, and he'll talk about that. Relocation advice, another one, is coming from Yvonne. So I just have this general category relocation advice, but it's coming from a different point of view. Yvonne every week is able to turn out a lot of statistics on things that people, not statistics actually, stories that can be put in statistical terms to help you understand what the adjustment is like to schools, to medical care, all the sort of things that people want to know after they get here and after the job offer is signed. What do you do now? Yvonne's covered that territory really well in the past. It's sort of her expertise, you can say here, and it's because of her flow of people coming through and the dialogue that she has with them. And then regarding New Zealand visas, best for last, we've got not one, but 2 immigration advisors working together from different companies on this webinar. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, I think it's pretty uncommon and it's pretty cool. I think it sets the tone for the spirit of what we want to do here in this group, cooperation, collaboration, bringing the best advice together for you. And, that's what it's all about. We get a following, you get information, you're helped, we're helped, and that's how it goes. All right, I put a poll out. The poll says trades related, that's who we got. 3 of them are trades related, so 30%, right? Degree qualified engineer who answered this poll, 1, sales, 2, middle management, HR, financial management, 2, and other in the chat room will be described 2 other roles. So as I'm talking about the jobs in New Zealand, I'll keep it in mind, these sorts of responses that I've got so far. I know we just started, but if you can keep those responses going, I'll address it again maybe at the end if anyone wants to know it. It's up to you. You ask the questions, and at the end, we'll probably answer some of them. So the job situation in New Zealand, it does differ based on the role. It also differs based on who you are as a person. Generally, as you know, almost everyone knows, the job market doesn't work in the traditional way. So if I was to make, for example, a job filter like this, there's a filter. It's a process where, you drop your CV in the top and out the bottom comes your short list, your job offer, you can say. You get the short list down here and the job offers at the end. The problem is foreigners don't really get through this thing. They drop the CV in and out comes the form letter. Isn't it true? 100 CVs might get about 80 form letters and about 20 no responses. I've heard this many times. It's very painful to hear the same story over and over and over again of people that land and they call me, but it's 3 per week or so, sometimes 2, sometimes 4. About 3 per week, I'll get a call and they'll give me the same story. I have landed, I've got X period of time left. So far, I have no meetings with anybody. I haven't even talked to a decision maker. I'm only getting form letters or no responses. And it's frustrating for the people. It's demoralizing. It's no position to be in mentally, emotionally, to be ready to actually go to a job offer meeting, it's not the condition where you can even, engage with people on the phone or anywhere. But It's demoralizing. So how to get out of this? I mean, the first way to get out of it really is to plan in advance so it doesn't happen. But I do try to help when people call me. I don't want to get into that right now. Let's go into the big picture, because you probably aren't in Auckland, most of you, or in New Zealand yet. You're probably not calling on a panic call, wanting to know from this webinar, how do I get a job today? So we're going to back up and take a deep breath and understand, how this process works. Although it's specific for each person, there are universal things that have to come into play, for you. So you go into this job filter, right? How it doesn't work is like this. You got a junior at the top. That's how it normally happens. Junior, and not why junior at the top and not, a senior who's down here. The senior gets paid more, doesn't have time to spend 100 CVs per role, and lots of roles might be coming through in some of these companies. So they'll hire a junior to manage that. Well, what's the junior know about the actual role? By definition, not a whole lot. The junior's responsibility is to get this through. In fact, the order might be, give me 5, 3, whatever, shortlisted people from your list. Go find them in the pile of paper, in the CV, in the emails, and then come up with the shortlist. And there's a process. So and then do all this other stuff. Don't just do that. It's not just do that. Do a lot of stuff. That's what the junior's supposed to do. Well, the junior sees this from South Africa, and this junior thinks, too hard basket. What do I do? I'll put it over here, maybe get to it later. It never happens often for many people. What are the chances to get through? It's very minimal, statistically very minimal. That's what I want to say. Is there no chance? No. Does it always never work? No, it sometimes works, but it's like rolling a 1,000-sided dice and hoping that you get, 355. It doesn't work very well. All right, I'm just being a little bit silly. Over here, we do it a different way. So we engage the market ourselves directly, which requires a personal approach, which requires getting to know you, which requires beginning with your strengths, which requires a bit of understanding of, what you've done in the past, what your qualifications are, what some achievements and all that sort of stuff. A story, right? You have to have the story. And what's the goal here? The goal right at the start of things is the residency, right? That's what you need to have, is the residency. Everyone needs the residency. I assume here, most people need the residency. And then what happens before that? You actually need to work to the residency, right? So there's a period of time there, work to the residency. What happens before that? We get a job offer, right? Job offer has to happen. So I'm going critical path, right? This is the must-have stuff, job offer. All right, so you got the job offer. How did you get that? Well, everyone gets a job offer. Normally, I'll go 95% of the time. Again, we go with law of averages. 95% of the time, that job offer is going to come from a meeting. And meeting is the goal. That's the heart of the whole process, right? You got this prep work, you've got the meeting, and you've got everything that comes after. If we look at the timeline, sorry for that, my hand motions, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Right there, the meeting, that's what we're looking at. You can go like that, in fact, meeting. So that's what we do. We spend all of our time and effort and energy to get the meeting. And that means getting to know you, getting to know how the process works, and getting you into the company of decision makers by letting yourself get known to them. And there's, probably 101 ways to do that. We do customize it to suit, but that's a sort of, everyone can use that knowledge by avoiding, basically it's due diligence, the classic due diligence. How do you enter a new market? How do you make any big decision? You want to look at, what the actual options are and understand what's working for other people, and just do it in the way that makes sense for you, time-wise, with investment of time and money. And some people want to fly first and do a lot of stuff here locally, but it does cost more. Some people are happy to, look from abroad for a long period of time and just go fishing for a longer period of time and reduce the cost and gain more confidence and more understanding by getting feedback from actual employers. That helps quite a lot. So I hope that helps someone. I mean, if we just go down the list, the trades related people, there's a few of you there. Thanks for answering these polls. You got the numbers changing a little bit. The trades related people, really, it's about getting face-to-face or having such skills that are so clear that you can actually get a Skype interview. Trades related is one of the few that can actually get a Skype interview. I'd say probably 5 or 7% chance to get hired over Skype if you're trades related. It's still not great, but what you'll find is that that 5 or 7% will broadcast their success quite widely. And the people that, have challenges, they won't broadcast it right away, but when they get success, then it will be broadcast. Just human nature, right? So the trades related has a good chance of getting hired over other people generally. So also degree qualified engineer, I'd put them in the same category. These are the people that build, stuff with diagrams, with qualifications on the civil side, industrial side, commercial side. They're bringing things from, they're macro managers with a degree. So they know what they're doing by math, by physics, and that sort of thing. Engineers have a special role in New Zealand. And qualified teachers, I think most of them probably have to come. Probably, again, it's about 5 or 7%. Degree qualified teachers also enroll. They're sort of on the higher end. Middle managers almost always will have to get face-to-face. Why? Because the risk is higher. Why? Because there's a long learning curve. What learning curve? Well, understanding how things work in the system, the laws, labor law. How do you manage someone else if you don't know labor law, right? So that's the middle management issue. They have to understand things before they can actually apply things, right? Top management, same thing, if not worse. The exception for top management, here's the thing with top management. If we can find top management who has a special background that is unique to New Zealand, for example, heaps of international experience in some sort of projects that are needed somewhere, then you've got a small niche, but a very strong position in the small niche. And you can be snapped up on that top management side. If you're just a general top manager with good general skills, sorry, a Kiwi will keep that role. That's almost, I know I'm saying a blanket statement. I don't like to do that, but that's almost 100%. It will be very hard to get in. And that's also the same, very hard for HR and financial managers to get in. Is it impossible? No, but if you look for those special, unique things, for example, these special projects, that's your added value, right? And how to get that to the client, like I say, there's 101 ways to do that. That's what I do, throw everything at the meeting so that the rest of it has a chance to happen. And the maximizing the chances is what needs to happen. I'm going to use that for my meeting now. Right, so that's the job market over here. It doesn't work. This is the main path, what to do, right? This is how to look at, how to do it. It's really throw everything you've got into the meeting. Do that as much as you can before coming to New Zealand, not after you get here. It's a very unfortunate thing that so many experts out there say the following quote: you have to be in New Zealand to get a job. That's a partial truth that deceives many people, actually, unfairly. It puts them in a position that they normally wouldn't go if they would just hear the actual full truth of that statement. To be hired in New Zealand, you most often have to be in New Zealand after you prepare in South Africa for a successful trip in New Zealand during these interviews. That's the sort of longer statement that would actually make sense. And I think a lot of those people that call me every week would have wished that they would have heard that statement. Now you hear that statement and you can benefit from it. So don't fly to New Zealand and then try to find work if you haven't already gotten some confidence in what your plan is. Talk about meeting targets, right? And who you're going to meet and make a little schedule. It doesn't have to be complete. In fact, it can't be complete because there'll be changes. People will change the schedule. It shouldn't be complete. You should leave flexibility as well for new things that come up. So we're not talking about complete versus nothing. We're talking about something significant that gives you confidence versus nothing, which will potentially be a big problem. Is it the end of the world? No. Some people come here, land, and they're successful. So, there are ways to manage certain roles, but as you heard from me, the roles are, they're not all perceived the same. Some of them are in high demand, some of them aren't. The ones that aren't, it's not the end of the world. You can indicate other things to get, in more in the demand side if you've got that in your background, but it's partially the background. It's also partially how you engage the market. Both of them have to be working together. Engage the market with a good background that is in demand, and you're on a winner. You're on a winner. And then prepare for it before you come. And, you know, that's the third thing, I guess. That's probably it. You know, prepare with the background and come with confidence. So that's pretty much what I have to say. The next thing I've got here, Cliff, what did you think of that?
Accurate. Yeah, basically form a plan. Don't plan on coming here and winging it. It's not going to work for you.
Yeah, it never works really well. Cliff, you had this great insight that came to you along the path of talking to, you know, some of our wonderful Saffas on the group, on Shane's group there. What was the discovery that led you to make that post, and what did you learn after making that? Maybe you can talk a little too about the post itself as well.
Okay, the reason, you know, what Tate's referring to is where he said, you're not leaving South Africa, it's already left you. You know, I got like, you know, 230 or 240 likes and like, I think 75 posts, some of which are, you know, some of the people that are in here. What I saw is as I was talking to Saffas on the phone, you know, on Skype or what have you, there was a common thread that was coming off, and it was guilt over leaving. And it was holding them up. It was inhibiting them. You know, they were feeling bad and stuff, or whatever, not necessarily depressed, but it bothered me. And I began to just sit back and say, wait a minute, this guilt is not productive. And I began to think, it's like, okay, they're guilt about leaving. And it's like, no, you're not leaving. It's already gone. The South Africa you knew and grew up is gone, and it's not coming back. I apologize for getting loud, but I'm passionate. And when I talk loud or fast, you know that that's emotion coming out. But yeah, so the intent of the post was for everybody to realize, and based on the feedback, they got it. But yeah, it's like it was all intended to try and get that hump off of people's back. You know, you can mourn that it's gone, you know, that kind of stuff, that's okay. But yeah, guilt, stop it, because it's hindering you. And you know, that was hurting them in various ways, because it's, you know, it's like they just felt bad and they shouldn't have. You know, your choice is your own and things and stuff. But yeah, so many people, the South Africa that they grew up with, the one they know, even the one that they love, was years ago when they were young. I've talked to people and they're like, oh, we used to play out in the streets till 11 o'clock at night. Can't do that anymore. Things like that. And a lot of people see in New Zealand some parts of their youth, you know, the neighbors and those kind of things, stuff which was just commonplace. Everybody had it. So that's some of the attraction, I think, to New Zealand. Not all, but yeah, they want what they had in their youth for their own kids. But yeah, so I struck a nerve in a big way on that one, but the intent was quit feeling guilty. And that's the reason I made
in a day, and some of the comments were quite interesting. Do you want to review any ones that you remember?
Let me try and find the post. If
I mean, I remember
there was a ton of them. Yeah, a lot of people said thanks. A lot of people said they didn't realize that. You know, it's like, yeah, you're right. Things like that. That post wasn't made for praise or anything. It was made to help people, because as they said, just saw them over this cloud, and let's get rid of it, because that cloud is long since gone. There is nothing to feel guilty about. You know, friends, family can all be angry with you about leaving. That's different. You know, but where you're feeling guilt, there is no cure. So what I was trying to do was actually create a cure, or give them a cure, to say, you don't have anything to feel guilty about, because it left you. You know, you didn't do anything. It left you, and it left you over a period of years. It didn't happen overnight. And
to put it another way, I guess, the way of life has changed to such a degree, according to what most South Africans say, especially the ones coming through here. They can make it, but their kids can't make it. Like, the future is for them. It almost, you can sort of see that. I hear that so often, but my kids don't, I can't see a future for them. So I have to leave. even the ones that are regretful, they decide to leave. And the hurtful thing is, I think we've covered this before, but it's probably worth talking about again because we have new people coming through. There are people in families and friends and people that at work who put a guilt on you. And some people that I know, before they leave here, they say, no, we haven't told a soul. It's just me and my wife that know. I've heard that, not, I wouldn't say it's the majority. It's probably about at least 20% of the people will say something like that, that they're keeping it quite quiet. And not because they're worried about losing their job. It's for this other stuff, the peer pressure often.
Yeah, because
I find that fascinating because it doesn't. That thinking doesn't exist in other countries normally.
Yeah, well, sometimes there are other people, particularly in the group, the online group. They have a skill set, or they're willing to sell the house, or this, or what have you, and deal with the consequences or whatever. There are other people who just don't have the ability. They don't have the opportunity, whether it's, the job, they've got parents that need their assistance for various reasons, very justifiable. They can often be bitter because it's like, they're jealous somewhat. But as they say, everyone is unique. There is no wrong decision. Just do what you feel is right for you and your family. Now, you've all, this is like repeat, and I apologize for just repeating, but if you come to New Zealand, your kids win lotto of life. They're going to be safe. They can go to college. They'll have a New Zealand passport, so they can virtually travel almost anywhere in the world without a visa. It's a good deal. Yeah. And, not just your kids, but your future generations.
I hear
so I'm
from.
Sorry, I'm stepping down from my soapbox. I apologize.
No, that's fine, Cliff. You did good. We have a message from Veronica to everyone. It says, you're already in New Zealand. Yeah, everybody kinds of gives you grief about us wanting to leave the country and guilt tripping you. Also telling it will not be that easy and you're going to struggle, etc. Remember that guy, the police officer who was the top of the thing. It was like the number one police officer in South Africa. And his own force, the people that he worked with, were telling him his papers, his documents, his police officer documents were of no value in New Zealand. They were trying to guilt trip him and push him out. And he said, that's the reason why he got a job so quick, because he was this niche, like I talked about, if you're in a general field, that doesn't have a real high demand, you got to find that niche. Well, you can't get any more niche than the top cop a top cop in South Africa. And people understood that. And they said, oh yeah, we'll have you, sir. Thank you. Because it helps the security. Well, the rest of the story. And the guilt trip thing, it comes from everywhere. And I don't get it. I don't really understand it still. Probably it's related to, not wanting to be alone in the struggle or something. I mean, it could be something like that. Maybe it's actually quite sad from the person you think you're getting a guilt trip from them, but actually they might actually be the one you feel sorry for. They're probably feeling quite alone that, they gotta, or for whatever reason, they're staying back.
Yeah. Can be they don't even have a choice. That's it.
Can be. Yeah. I get the sense it's not always the case. Sometimes people just can't say goodbye to certain things that are a good life, which brings us to Yvonne. Yvonne has the next one. Thanks a lot, Cliff. That was really great. I'll ask you again if there's anything else at the end, if you like. Did I miss something? Did you miss something?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, at the end, you have another chance. Thanks a lot, Cliff. Yvonne has given us a lot of information about, coming here, and she's got more of an insight into the actual people coming. Yvonne is a South African. Now she's here. She's one of us, as we all are. We're all of us here. All of us? Yeah, all of us are foreigners that are hosts and co-hosts here. It's all like that. All right, so wouldn't it be nice to know how to cope to different struggles in New Zealand before you get to New Zealand? And Yvonne has been giving us insights into all these sorts of things. So I'll ask if Yvonne is ready yet. Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Tate, and yourself.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I'm fine. So Yvonne, I guess, did I introduce that right? Do you want to start over? I mean, people need to know what they're getting into. First, they get the job thing right. They got that. they come in and they think, oh, there's a few other things here. There's school, there's important things going on here. So adjustments, that was your topic?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's a reality that you only really face once you're here. When you start to realize that there are quite a few different things and you have to get used to that part of adjusting. And part of adjusting is part of settling, and that takes time. Even when I got here, most people who'd been here for a good few years said to me, you know, you got to give yourself a good 2 years. Don't give up, and keep remembering why. That's really what it's about. When you're doubting yourself, just think why. Why did you make the decision to leave and eventually leave? And the first thing you really learn about South Africans in New Zealand is that there are a lot of them. Really, there's a lot. Like every time I go to Pack and Save or Countdown, there is a South African family, and a lot are quite new. And they get so excited when they see a fellow South African in the shop. And it's always nice to talk to them and hear their side. And what brought me to talking about adjusting is quite a few, as I've been saying, the last 2 webinars, quite a lot of my clients who have helped over the last few months are now starting to feel, you know, the culture difference, and starting to miss home, or probably I put it down to, you know, becoming close down to Christmas and holidays. And I think it's quite normal. Some people I've spoken to have been here for many, many years, like over 10 years, say the same thing. And you just got to learn skills to get used to that. And I think open-minded immigrants who make the effort to learn about the local culture and, you know, just the way New Zealand is, they're more realistic about the positives and negatives of living in New Zealand, and they're more likely to enjoy life here. So one of the things people say they have to get used to, and happens a lot for my clients who are here visiting, like job hunting, and have more time, I suppose, to go out, because normally they're here without their family. And they are the first ones to bring up the topic of socializing in New Zealand is very different. New Zealanders are known to be friendly and helpful. They're laid back, that's very obvious once you've been here. And that's also reflected in the informal dress code. A lot of South Africans say it's a big, I'm not sure it's just not South Africans, it's a big adjustment to see them in their, you know, pajamas in the shops and out and about, pretty much in their PJs. And that's something different to get used to. And there again shows how laid back they are. And children in New Zealand are highly valued, and their safety and upbringing of children are taken very seriously, which is great, especially when you're here with children or you're coming here with the plan to start a family soon. And many new migrants are surprised by how helpful the strangers can be, especially in the big cities. It's really great and comforting. And although they're warm and courteous and they're great, they can also be reserved, and that I find as well, which that can make you feel quite isolated, which can make it difficult to start friendships, and that's something that you have to adapt to here. Like the people that we meet in South Africa, they would invite you to braai, and you know, you'd form friendships a lot easier. We here, the Kiwis don't really just invite you into their homes, and I think one of those reasons is also because you have to clean afterwards. It's not like in South Africa, you can have a nice big braai and you've got a domestic coming in later or the next day to clean up after you. So I think that's probably a contributing factor. And the culture there is just different again. You don't just, as the South Africans say, braai and kuier. It takes a long time for a Kiwi. I've never been invited into Kiwi's home, and I've been here now for 16 months. My neighbor, that's a bit different, but yeah. But in the same breath, the Kiwis love coffee. So going out for a coffee is a great way to get outdoors, meet people there as well. And something to get used to, which is not, I suppose it depends where you come from in South Africa, is here's a real outdoor lifestyle. And obviously the Kiwis are big with their sport. And that's, like South Africa is also, as we know, huge on their rugby. Where most of the neighborhoods here have parks, you know, families take their children there in the evenings, and that's normally right on your doorstep. In South Africa, you can't really do that anymore. And that's a really nice thing to get used to here. It takes a while without you having to like look behind you all the time. And you also have to get used to like there's not that many people in New Zealand. It's so different. Like I come from Cape Town, I'm sure, and I've only been to Joburg once. It's crazy. There's just people everywhere, people in cars. we hear it's not like that. So the sense of space may take some getting used to. Although many new arrivals, they really enjoy going to the beach or the park or the golf course, and very often you have it all to yourself. There's just not that many people. And a big adjustment for sure for me and my family as well was the weather in New Zealand, especially coming from Cape Town. There's a lot less rain, hence they've got their strict water restrictions and their drought they had last year. It's a big adjustment. It's part of starting to, I don't know, when it's, I suppose, so much rain, there's less that you can do, especially when you don't know all the type of things that you can do indoor. And where I stay in Taupo outside of Auckland, there's really not much to do indoors here. So you sort of got to figure out, you know, entertain yourself really, and your family, especially with children. And then a lot of people say to me, wow, they've been researching, and is earthquakes really such a point of concern? And that's, I suppose, in its own way, something that you have to adjust to. I've spoken to clients in Auckland and Hamilton and Wellington. They don't really feel earthquakes that much. I mean, I've been in 16 months and I've probably felt about 8, but they say Taupo has regular earthquakes that you can feel. That's probably why. And the residents here have the emergency kits in the garages, and we've not put one in our car. We had recently quite a big one. And there you'd obviously just have water, food, medical supplies. And I think that also scares quite a lot of people, the earthquake factor, but it's okay. Then people say to me, oh, but you're on the ring of fire. Isn't that like really scary? And yes, it is. The first few it is scary, but there again, you adjust to it, and you know, especially when you've had a few, it's okay. And New Zealand's very prepared for that as well. And for the people, my clients who start working in New Zealand, a lot of them say management here is a lot more relaxed. So in the sense, there's a strong work ethic. Basically, it looks at getting things done as opposed to looking for guidance on what to do at every sticking point, encouraging you to make that decision without having to run to them all the time. It means that many people who have worked in other countries, they're quite unfamiliar with the low level of intervention from management. And it's probably more informal than where we come from back in South Africa. And there again, I mentioned the good work-life balance. It's an important part of the working culture in New Zealand. And very often, like where my husband works as well, they have regular coffee mornings or buffet parties to celebrate something or some other occasion, which is great. And for us, we feel like you get more annual leave here in New Zealand, which is really nice, especially when you're settling in. I mean, 4 weeks is a nice amount. We don't get that in South Africa, which is also an attractive package for most people which are coming from abroad. And something probably not as positive to get used to, but because everything's virtually imported to New Zealand, things are expensive, especially with the unfavorable exchange rate for those starting out here before you start to earn New Zealand dollars. I mean, I still convert things, even though everybody says to stop doing it. 16 months later, I still do, not as much. You start to realize it's relative to what you earn. And the quicker you stop converting, the better. But it's easier said than done, especially when people are here on a 3-month visitor's visa, job hunting, and everything that they're buying, they are converting because it's their rands that they're paying. And there again, the prices of home rentals is expensive. If you compare it to what we were paying back in South Africa. And so many people say to me, wow, do you really pay per week for rent? And we do. I've heard of some of my clients, they say to me, oh, well, they arranged with the agent that they could pay month to month, and that made them feel a bit more comfortable, probably more what they're used to. But with that, then you have to increase your bond, which is like a deposit here. So not everybody's in that position to do that. So that's something to plan ahead, that it's week to week. And I've been getting a lot of questions the last while of vehicle finance. Does it have to be weekly? And no, it doesn't. And if you change it to monthly, it'll differ maybe by a couple of cents or $1 or $2. So yeah, many of the people or the companies, you can arrange to pay monthly. And it's strange. It's one of the things we're so used to in South Africa, and the people ask for it specifically here. I mean, we did as well. We try to put as much as we could month to month, especially when you're being paid month to month. And then it comes down to the small things that I miss. And so I put a post on to our migrating group. Did people take the longest to adjust to? And yeah, the same as how I feel. I miss Woolworths and Dis-Chem, especially because I used to shop there a few times a week. You don't have any shop here that's like that. I'm really not. And I miss it, and I've adapted to living without it. And even if I speak to clients who are coming here from America or from the UK, they all say, and it's so strange, they all mention Woolworths. It's just, there's nothing like it. And it makes me wonder, is there even anything remotely like that in the UK or in America? Because there's definitely not here. And there's many days I wish I could just use those amazing, quick, convenient, healthy meals, but we learn to make do. And something we also had to adapt to was when you go to a restaurant, you have to go to the front for the bill. You don't ask for it at the table. Small things like that. And if you want a jug of water, you go up and get it yourself. So quite a few clients say to me, that's really strange. They were sitting there and they feel a bit awkward. They're not sure what to do. And New Zealand's beautiful. Like when I'm feeling a bit down or also having one of my days, I'll just go for a walk, and it's just really, we couldn't do that back in South Africa with me not having to keep my children attached to me. You can just walk freely and it's okay. Like you don't have to look back. You don't have to feel, oh, these people are coming from the front. Are you going to be okay? And bring your children closer to you. And no matter where you are in New Zealand, I'd say you're probably about 15 minutes from somewhere really beautiful. And there's a variety of places of interest to visit and activities to do, and most of it's free. New Zealand's clean, everything's well maintained, and it works as scheduled. And those little things are things that we have to get used to. They're again part of adjusting. And again, the weather's, it's changeable, so it never becomes boring and predictable, and very child and family friendly everywhere really. And my children really just love the abundance of play parks. And for me, a big thing to get used to was no domestic help. Well, you can get it if you are prepared to pay the minimum wage. So I got a couple of pricing when I got here, and I couldn't find anybody that charges less than $18 an hour. And that's a lot of money when especially when you're starting out. And winter's tougher because there's more washing, and I find, so because you don't, like I had full-time help Monday to Friday, I've now got 4 children. So for me, the reality is it's something for me to adjust to keep my own home clean, especially when I'm quite OCD. And yeah, there again, I suppose you get your children more involved and you give them pocket money for helping out and unpacking the dishwasher. And I mean, most of the houses, you all come with dishwashers, and that's for very good reason. And it comes to really good use as well. And something I find really funny was a pack and save, packing your own groceries. I don't know if it's like that all over in New Zealand, but it is in Taupo. So I don't always go there, especially when I've got all the kids with me. It just takes way too long. And to have to put my own fuel in at the petrol station, I've had some clients say to me, oh my word, what do they do? They don't know, like they just can't figure it out. And I still don't do it. I go and ask them if they could please help me. It's just, yeah, I'm just not at that stage where I can do that yet. And there again, with no domestic help comes with no gardeners. You could pay a garden service like we've had to do. Our garden's just way out of control with all the rain and beautiful sun. And then there's no potholes in the road. So many of my car rental clients say to me they cannot believe it. The roads are just beautiful. There's no roadside vendors, there's no car guards, you've got no burglar bars in the windows. There's loads of roundabouts instead of stop streets. The traffic lights work, and if they are out of order, they actually get fixed. Like really, you don't just stay there for days and days. And the municipality maintains the verges, the public parks, and the suburbs all have lovely playgrounds that are all well maintained, clean. You're not going to find broken glass everywhere. And supermarkets here start open quite late. Like I found out last week, the lady's like, oh, she's still got like 7 hours to go. And that was like 4, 5 o'clock. I was like, oh, what time do you close? Look at the countdown here in Taupo closes at 11. And the supermarkets, well, the cafes, which they call the dairies here, they also start open really late. And something to adjust to if you're a mom, public schools start later here, between 8:30 and 9, and then they finish a bit later than South African schools. So my kids start at 9 and they end at 3. And something great is the public health service is subsidized for if you're a resident or like most of us on a temporary work visa, and schooling's basically free. So those are all little things that's part of adjusting. And yeah, that's what makes New Zealand so great. And again, with the public health service being subsidized and not having to pay school fees every month, it results in more disposable income for the average family. And that makes a big difference at the end of the day. I mean, we were paying a fortune. I mean, of course, then I had 3 kids for schooling and medical, where it's just so different here. We can actually save, and it's great. And coming from South Africa, there's certain rules and regulations. So it can seem a bit over the top here, like the speed limit's 100 on the highway. And a lot of people clearly do struggle with that because of the speeding fines that I get from my car rental clients. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. And in the suburbs, it's 50. So, but with those hectic rules and regulations, as some people say, it's like, wow, they're very taken back. So, but it can be seen in a positive light. And as a result, there's order here, and any problems are dealt with swiftly, which is a huge positive, especially when you're coming from South Africa and you've had to go through the long wait of your police clearance and just to get everything done, the home affairs, it's painful. So to come here and see how everything works, and the first thing I think people get to experience here is when they have to open their bank account. They can see how awesome that is and how it just works. It just goes like it's supposed to without any drama. And that's most of the people's first interaction of, you know, going into something in New Zealand where they need it to work. So I thought to end off with some uplifting inspiration for those needing it. I've had a lot of inbox messages over the last week of people who are scared to make this big move. They're scared that they won't be able to adjust, that all these small things I've just spoken about are not going to be worth giving up what they've got back home. In case they don't settle, they don't adjust, and they, you know, get homesick, and those are all normal feelings. So something I sent to most of them, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Really, it does. I am particularly a creature of habits, and it was hard, but I'm so happy I've done it. And, you know, I find comfort in the fact that my children are so safe and happy here, and they actually adjusted really well. People are very concerned as to how their children are going to adjust. I can't talk about how teenagers adjust because my children are 9 and under, but really they adapted well. I'm really happy. The schooling is amazing. I was concerned that the long hours were going to be an issue for them. And my 5-year-old in South Africa, you don't go to primary school when you're 5. Here you do. I was really worried. And it was just me that was worried because he loves it. And really he does. So I say, don't be afraid to start over again. This time you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And that's a fact. You come here and you know nobody, well, in most of the cases. And the people actually say to me, like, it's great. They come here, they don't know anybody. And I really got out of my way to help with just the small things. And those little small things is what helps you to settle here. And I just say to everybody, don't give up. You will get through it. And it's normal. These feelings that everybody have of being homesick, or especially like Cliff said, the guilt that you have, it goes away when you start to realize that everything here is just amazing, it works, and you find comfort in those type of thoughts.
Once again, thank you very much, Yvonne. That was fantastic. Good review, huh? If we could hear everyone clapping only, huh? I'm sure everyone is, it's just fantastic to get that review. Okay, so couple of questions, because I'm totally understanding where you're coming from, and I've had the same sort of sense from the people I come into contact with. Right or wrong, it seems to me the main thing, you touched on it yourself. You said, you know, that life begins after you get into the comfort zone. You know, you're out of the comfort zone. So once you get out of the comfort zone, you can sort of see what you see. Your next statement is you can see how your children benefit and that sort of thing. So that's generally, I think, is that how everyone, when they find adjustments here in New Zealand, they generally go through that stage, get out the comfort zone, find the new you in the new country, or, you know, so to speak, and appreciate those positive things. Would you say that's sort of how it goes, or do you have another way to put it so that people understand?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's normal. I just say to everybody, it's normal. I mean, I have 2 clients who I helped come here last year. And they've returned back to South Africa, and they couldn't find the support that they needed online. And I've experienced that myself. If you put anywhere on any of the Facebook groups that you're struggling for any reason, then people say to you, like, what is wrong with you? We wish we could be there. Don't sound ungrateful. And you see that everywhere. And that's why with our migrating group, I openly talk about being homesick, about what you're going to miss back home. and how difficult it can be to adjust, because you're leaving everything that you know behind. It's nothing easy about it. And when you're coming over with children, you don't just worry about yourself, you're worrying about how they're going to feel. So it's important to talk about it. And yeah, I've said in my last webinar, it's exciting when you first arrive, and as soon as you start, like people talk about, it's a big culture shock, and it is. You don't braai and kuier here when you arrive, and it takes time for that to happen. So yeah, I say time heals, and time helps you adjust, definitely.
We had a guest here early on who name is Ernst, and he shared with us an experience he had that went through that journey. I think for him, it was really about understanding, I don't have to be in the material thing anymore. It's no longer a desire because I don't have to do it. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course. I can walk anywhere, for, like you said about the free thing. I can go and see the most beautiful places on the planet, according to many people, with my children, anytime I want to, and a short drive. You know, it's all right here. So appreciating when you weigh this up and you start saying, well, there's a package of New Zealand and there's a package of home, whatever that is, positives and negatives on both sides. What do you want better? And most people who are here, I mean, obviously some people are go back, but most people who are here, they say it was well worth it.
Yeah, that for sure. There's really no other way except give yourself time. I met a family about 4 months ago when I was going through a bit of a tough time adjusting as well. And that guy said to me, he lives in Auckland. They gave me the number and they said, listen, if you're ever thinking of going back, don't do it. They say, just give yourself time. And that's really what I say to everyone. Just give yourself time. It will get better. And I mean, like, I've been here 16 months now and I absolutely love it. And that's why I want to help others and encourage them and, you know, inspire and motivate that you can do this, and it's great.
Well, your poll results show that you had the right answers, so you know what you're talking about. The biggest adjustment for you, multiple choice, the weather, culture, cost of living, no domestic help, safety and security, and then we have some others as well, which I didn't see any right away. I saw someone talking about load shedding recently, but
yeah, I've got yeah, I don't know how that affects everybody else here, but when we want to talk to our family back home, they're like, no, Wi-Fi is off because we've got load shedding. And before we left last year in Cape Town, we had so much load shedding, and it, yeah, so it's nice to not have that. Yeah, well, before we left, not only was it load shedding, we also had water restrictions. So it was down to a 90-second shower. So when we got here, the kids had nice big baths and yeah, long showers. It was awesome. So yeah, those type of things. And yeah, you just, your whole view changes. And it's a bit, it sucks because now we have to plan around talking to family during, you know, when they don't have load shedding. And I've spoken to a lot of people here who've just come recently, especially in Joburg, from load shedding. And they say to me, geez, how strange it is to have power on all day. You don't need to plan around, you know, cooking early or making sure there's enough hot water because the geyser's not going to go on. So yeah, it's good.
All right. Thank you very much, Yvonne. Another great review on people as they come through. You take their points of view and put it into a digest for everyone to sort of get an understanding of how they would see themselves in the situations that you bring up. And today was about adjusting. I think you covered a lot of territory. Thank you very much for that.
Great.
And I saw Cliff saying, yes, I'm clapping. So good.
Oh, I'm glad.
All right, so the next topic we have, last one, best for last? Yeah, I think so. We've got two immigration agents here talking about the visitor's visa. This is really important. You think the visitor's visa is just a visitor's visa and it's just can be used how you want it. And, you know, I thought that too, but it's not exactly true. And people do get caught out on it, using the visitor's visa in the wrong way. Let's find out what the right way is, and let's make sure we don't get caught out using it the wrong way, because the last thing any of us here want, and the last thing you want, is to use the visitor's visa in a way that ends up, you know, harming your chances for getting into New Zealand, basically. So is that a decent enough way to introduce this, Julia, Monika?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So, yeah, I mean, Monika and I have put together a few questions, and frequently asked questions that clients have asked us in the past. So we thought we'll deal with those, and hopefully that will answer everybody's question on the webinar. So I guess top of the list is, can I actually travel to New Zealand to look for work on a visitor visa? So what do you think, Monika?
So yes, you can. However, you always have to keep in mind what you are putting as a purpose of your visit on the visitor visa application. You have to remember that INZ will have to be satisfied that the main reason for you coming to New Zealand on your visitor visa is to visit the country, and they will INZ cannot grant you a visitor visa if they are not satisfied that your main reason for coming to New Zealand is to visit. So if you will say that you are coming to look for a work, and this is going to be your main reason, your application will most likely be declined.
Correct. Yeah. So it can never be your main reason, but you can come to New Zealand and look for work as long as you declare that you're here primarily as a tourist, exploring the country, looking at opportunities, and job searching is secondary to doing all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So how would I apply for the visitor visa?
So you can apply online, which is a very easy application, easy way to do it. Yes, so Julia is sharing the screen, which is nice, thanks. So you can log into INZ website, and you can select the visitor visa application, and you just fill in the application, and you will also have to provide some additional documentations to your application to show the reasons of your visit, and the funds, that you have enough funds, and the travel tickets. You will have to have the return ticket. Yes, Julia, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, for a visitor visa, it can only ever be here on a temporary basis. So you have to convince Immigration New Zealand that you intend to leave at the end of your visit. So in addition to the documents that Monika mentioned, you would also have to show things that you have strong ties to your home country. So whether that be with a confirmation from your employer that you have approved leave, family ties, those sorts of things. Is there anything else on that list, Monika?
Yeah, so this is what you just said. So letter from the employer, that would be really important. Maybe if you've got already interviewed, that you've got already interviews set up here in New Zealand, you could provide a letter from your potential employer to include that to the application. I think that's basically it. Yeah. You just have to remember that INZ has toughened up their policy, and they check every application very carefully. If they are not satisfied with the evidence provided with the application, it would most likely be declined. So just read carefully, provide all the necessary information. More the better, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, relevant, of course, relevant evidence, yes. So
yeah, but if you have been lucky enough to secure job interviews, and then you apply for your visitor visa, you can include those invitations from those employers as part of your evidence, and then declare that you are coming here for a job interview. That's perfectly fine to say that. Immigration New Zealand would then not be surprised if you then got a job offer and applied for a work visa. So it kind of, you have to be as open and honest with them as you can possibly be, so that they know what your intentions are, and that you do intend to return to your home country should when your visit is over.
Yes, that's true. And there's also one thing to remember, that if Immigration New Zealand has already granted you a visitor visa and agree for you to come to New Zealand to visit and look for opportunities, and in the meantime you have resigned from your work, or some other circumstances have changed in your life, you must inform immigration about that. So even though the visa was approved, You still have to remember if your passport has changed, you have to update that with immigration. If you have resigned from your job or something has happened, you really need to tell them about this, because this is how people get into trouble. They will provide all the necessary informations to immigration, then they will resign from work, they will come to New Zealand, then they will be lucky enough to secure a job here in New Zealand, they will apply for a work visa, and this is when immigration is coming back and saying that you are not a genuine visitor. And I had actually declined application because of that. The client has applied for a visitor visa himself. He resigned from the job, and then immigration came back and says that you have provided false and misleading information. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, it's always not to make any irreversible travel plans, because you don't want to cut off your legs before you've secured your position in New Zealand, really. So it can be a risky move to quit jobs and things before you have something set up on this side. Yeah,
that's true. And the last one thing, I'm aware that some South Africans have another passport from some European countries, which are also visa waived countries. So even if you have decided to come to New Zealand on one of those passports, you still have to disclose your intentions to immigration, because so I'm originally from Poland, and I had a client who came to New Zealand, and in his last week of being in New Zealand, he secured a job offer. He applied for a work visa. Immigration came back to him saying that he's not a genuine visitor because he has never declared that he'll be looking for a job. So what he decided to do, he has withdrew his application. He returned back home and he reapplied from Poland, and that was successfully approved by immigration. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Yeah. Is there anything else, Julia, that you think that we may add to that?
On the positive, I would say do your as much groundwork with your job search from South Africa or your home country before you make your travel plan. So using somebody like Tate, who's able to help you with that, so you make the most of your trip to New Zealand when you come. And if you've got job interviews lined up, that's fabulous, and you're able to put that on your application as your reason for coming. But you need to be able to come and look, see, and decide. That's the key phrase: look, see, and decide.
That's true. Thank you, Julia, for your help and assistance.
You're welcome.
Well done, both of you, Julia and Monika. I'd like to use this moment to sort of highlight something that I think is really beautiful about this group and any other group that does the same thing. I don't know how many others are out there. There must be some. But look at this collaboration and cooperation between different people, on the same site. We get the different expertise together, and, we're all here giving stuff away that normally isn't given away because we're independent, we're just, I guess we're that way. I don't know. We're not, we're independent minded, I guess. We just have a different mindset. It's nice to have this collection of people that are willing to give. I mean, obviously we can't give everything away because all of your specific needs are specific. So it will apply specifically. So it's actually illegal to give general. It won't work because, it won't work that way. But what we can do is give you enough information to get you at least oriented and targeted in the right direction and moving, so that your confidence builds up with the cheapest way possible, which is basically free from us, but there might be some expenses that you have, researching, that's time away from work, maybe some emails involved and registration and things like that. But at least we're sort of giving you a boost, and I think you'll feel that the spirit is there with us. I mean, you will never, I could be wrong. I don't think you'll ever find two different immigration agents cooperating at the same time from totally different companies, different parts of, New Zealand, not in the same company. I want to congratulate Julia and Monika for having the, I don't know what it is. It's just the motivation is very positive. It's very giving. And, you have to be confident in your own position that I'm here to serve other people as part of also making a living. It's not only making a living and everything else is secondary. it's sort of this balanced idea. I really like it, and I hope that you appreciate that. And when you get a chance, thank Julia and thank Monika for, you know, stepping out there and doing something that I don't think any other immigration agent is doing. Possibly I'm wrong. I'm not an expert of that, but it's rare. I know that. So thanks a lot, guys.
Great team effort, I'd say. Really cool.
Is there anything else? Oh, end polling. Oh, yeah. Okay. So is there anything else that someone wants to bring up? Julia, Yvonne, Monika, Cliff? Then what I might do then is just go to all of our little segments there at the end, where I'll just promote, you know, the places where you can find all these people, all these wonderful people you can find at the following places. So I guess it's goodbye from me. I'll still make some comments here and there, but what I want to do is just share some things where all these people are from. Try to give everyone equal time. So here's a place where you can find Julia Cooke. Julia Cooke is a New Zealand immigration consultant. She's working at North Shore, New Zealand Shores, sorry, New Zealand Shores. And this is a nationwide company, and Julia's been there for a while. And before that, she was at another place. She's 12 years experienced. So yeah, that's Julia Cooke. You can find her right at this site, New Zealand Shores. Just look her up. And if you want to find Monika, you'll find her right here, New Zealand Immigration Connections Limited. There's the promotion that she's got for herself. I think it's all true. And you can just find her by looking up New Zealand, this keyword search here. So if you need to know, you just come back and look it up. It's right there. There's the license number, both licensed, current, all that stuff. And here's Yvonne. Yvonne has this, she's come here. She's done quite a lot in a short amount of time. And because she's renting a lot of cars and financing, so she's met lots of people coming through, and then they ask for other things, you know, the school and all that. So that's why she's got these insights that she's able to give. So you can find her here, Tetra Wheels. Just look up keyword Tetra Wheels, and you'll find her. There's the phone number. Right, and there's me. So I find work for people. I find people for work as well, but it's mostly work for people. And basically, I do that by supporting you in the process of building up the profile so that the profile can engage the market. So your strengths here can be matched to the needs there. Lock it in with lots of meetings. That's what it's all about. Everyone, I appreciate your time here, and I'm glad to be here supporting some of the best people in the world coming through to New Zealand. Talent, passion, and all that you have there. You're leaving one place, regrettably, many of you. You're coming to a better life here. Almost all of you say that. So take care, and see you next time.
Thanks, Tate. Bye.
Bye.